Here's more wrestling news for January 3rd, 2022. And we're starting off this afternoon with WWE, as the company underwent major changes in 2022 with the retirement of Vince McMahon being the biggest of them all. For decades, McMahon sat on top of the wrestling world from his executive chair in Titan Towers, but WWE will soon have a new home to go with its new regime. According to CT Insider, WWE plans on being active in their new headquarters, which will also be in Stamford, by the end of the first quarter of 2023, with all employees being moved to the 13-story building. Over 800 WWE employees will work in the 400,000 square foot complex to make sure the company is running smoothly, and a spokesperson said that while WWE aren't seeking a buyer for their current abode, they will entertain discussions with interested parties. 2023 was one of the biggest years of change in the history of WWE, though it's worth noting that this move was planned before Vince McMahon's retirement, and WWE is preparing for even more changes over the next couple of months. Last week, Dax Harwood launched the premiere episode of the FTR podcast, where he and co-host Matt Kuhn will discuss a whole range of topics. From the very first episode, Harwood and his co-host discussed CM Punk and the controversy stemming from All Out, but this hasn't gone down too well with those in AEW. During Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reported that many in the company are unhappy, with Harwood stating, "From what I heard from different people, not the people who you probably heard from, they were not particularly happy at all about this. I heard the other day how unhappy people were about that podcast." It wasn't clarified why some wrestlers are unhappy, but it's likely due to Harwood being one of the most vocal supporters of Punk, despite what happened at All Out. Harwood has praised Punk, who he has called misunderstood in the past, which goes against the anti-Punk sentiment that has been in AEW's locker room since All Out. It has been reported that some top talents have refused to work with Punk if he is brought back to AEW, and right now, Dax Harwood is doing himself no favors with his podcast. In wrestling, few names are more respected than Kurt Angle, who captured gold in the Olympics before becoming a megastar as a pro wrestler. Angle's athletic ability and skills on the mic make him one of the all-time greats, but now some accusations have come out about the WWE Hall of Famer. On Twitter, Angle's ex-wife Karen Jarrett threatened to expose what she called 24 years of dirt about Angle, and said that he should think twice before he insults her current husband, Jeff Jarrett. In a follow-up tweet, Karen added that she's done living in fear of threats, saying, "Those assuming those tweets were in response to another tweet, that is incorrect. Someone dug himself a hole offline. Maybe that'll all be shared, maybe it won't. I do know I am done living in fear of the threats." Karen's comment implied that if Kurt spoke out, then she'd reveal his dirt, but that wasn't what she did, as when Angle said nothing, she still decided to expose the Olympian. While Kurt did not make any public comment after this tweet, Karen went on to claim that he had affairs with multiple women during their marriage, including Dawn Marie and Kelly Kelly. Karen said it was funny and sad how all of these alleged affairs had been swept under the rug, though it is worth stressing that this is just one side of the story. In another tweet, Jarrett said she did what she could to move on from these alleged affairs, which proved easier said than done. "We were legally separated at the time Kurt signed with TNA, living in different homes. We got back together and I tried to get over the affairs among other things that went on in our marriage, but obviously wasn't able." These posts earned a response from Kelly, who claimed that she and Angle were colleagues in WWE's ECW brand in 2006, but they were nothing more than that. Kelly debuted in ECW in July of that year, while Angle would leave WWE entirely mere weeks later and would go on to join TNA Wrestling shortly after. Angle and Karen married in 1998 and remained married until 2008, and Karen's marriage to Jeff Jarrett would be part of Kurt and Jeff's on-screen feud in TNA Wrestling. It was during a recent episode of AEW Dynamite that the Acclaimed would poke fun at Jeff Jarrett, saying he was stealing from fans like it was Kurt Angle's wife, but Mrs. Jarrett is clearly unhappy with the Olympian right now. At the January 1st Pro Wrestling Noah event, Shinsuke Nakamura defeated the Great Muta after sucking Muta's green mist out of his mouth and using it on the legend. This was a monumental win for Nakamura in his first non-WWE match since 2016, but a comment after the match by Muta has soured affairs. Praising his opponent, Muta addressed the spot of Nakamura sucking the mist out of his mouth, and given that it resembled kissing, called Nakamura an incredibly homophobic slur. We're not going to repeat what Muta said, but it has not gone down well with fans and has put a damper on what was otherwise an excellent match and show. Now, 2022 was an odd year for Lacey Evans, who had multiple returns and multiple face and heel turns, all while never having a prominent storyline on WWE TV. With a new year comes new opportunities for the roster in WWE, but it is looking like more of the same for the sassy Southern Belle. Fightful Select reports that Evans was supposed to appear on last week's Smackdown in a vignette teasing her latest character, but the segment did not make it to air. The reason behind the vignette being aired was not revealed, though some have suspected it was down to time constraints, and it looks like Evans will have even more bizarre booking in 2023 if last week's Smackdown is anything to go by. After leaving WWE in 2007, Bobby Lashley would eventually make his way to TNA Wrestling, but he did not join the company on his own. From October 2009 to January 2010, former WWE diva Crystal Marshall was on TV as the valet for her real-life boyfriend, but there's a reason her run was so short. On his 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff, who was a TNA executive at the time, said that Lashley was like butter, smooth and easy to work with, but Marshall was very difficult and created tension as time went on. Lashley and Marshall would eventually split, and Crystal has seemingly left the wrestling behind, but her antics backstage in TNA Wrestling live on. This month will see WWE host their annual Royal Rumble event, which many will consider the starting point on the road to WrestleMania 39. This year's WrestleMania will be the first in the post-Vince McMahon era, and the former CEO will have no involvement with the show. Fightful Select reports that while McMahon made a lot of plans for WrestleMania, they have all been changed, and no idea from the former boss will make it to the show. We don't know what exact plans McMahon came up with, but we do know that Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch is no longer the plan. One top talent said that Rousey is expected to have a huge match this April. WWE is said to be unsure as to what Lynch will do at the show, and WWE is still unsure about Cody Rhodes, as well. It was presumed that he'd be challenging for a world championship. Sources from Creative told Fightful that this hasn't been outright told to them yet. That same source added that despite reports about the three men, neither John Cena, nor The Rock, nor Logan Paul have been confirmed for the show just yet. For Cena, it was reported that there were plans for him to face Austin Theory following their tease of a match in 2002, but sources who spoke to Fightful said that the previous WWE regime was considering Cena versus Cody Rhodes. WWE is hopeful that The Rock will be at WrestleMania, but nothing is guaranteed just yet, as things will be far from easy on this year's road to the biggest two nights of the year. And we're ending today with Brock Lesnar, a 10-time WWE World Champion and multiple-time WrestleMania headliner. Also a star in UFC, it's hard to think that Lesnar could envy anybody else's career, but the Beast Incarnate was feeling pretty green during some points of his run. In his book Death Clutch, Lesnar writes about wanting to be like Glenn Jacobs, aka Kane, saying how he envied that the Big Red Machine was able to conceal his identity with a mask. Calling it the greatest gig ever, Lesnar envied how the vast majority of fans didn't know what Kane looked like, so it wouldn't bother him in public until his unmasking in 2003. Lesnar even jokes that his 2-year main roster run in WWE that ended in 2004 may not have ended so abruptly had he worn a mask, and praised Kane for always wearing his mask when he attended meet and greets. Even with a mask on, we reckon we could pick Brock Lesnar out of a police lineup, as no facial covering in the world could disguise the Beast Incarnate.